The world of boxing has seen its fair share of villains, loudmouths, pretenders, and delusional warriors, but none of them ever anticipated what awaited them when they targeted the most dangerous young champion the sport had ever produced. Mike Tyson wasn't just a fighter. He was an event, a natural disaster in human form, a force that didn't simply win fights but rewrote destinies with a single punch. When challengers stepped forward with threats, insults, or twisted fantasies of breaking him, they thought they were choosing their target. But in reality, they were signing their own punishment orders. Each man who swore to kill, embarrass, or dethrone Iron Mike learned the same lesson. When you provoke a beast forged by pain, discipline, and raw instinct, the consequences arrive fast, merciless, and unforgettable. It began in the mid-1980s, at a time when Tyson wasn't just winning, he was steamrolling. Every opponent seemed to fall apart the moment he entered the ring. Yet among the rising noise of the fight world, one voice stood out, not because of bravery, but because of insanity. Mitch "Blood" Green, a gang leader with more street chaos than boxing skill, fixated on Tyson with a deranged obsession. Green didn't see Tyson as a champion or a peer, he saw him as a target. He screamed threats, hurled insults, and vowed in front of cameras that he would kill Tyson. His tirades weren't just trash talk, they were the ramblings of a man convinced that intimidation was his strongest weapon. But Tyson didn't intimidate. Before the fight even began, those who truly knew him saw a fire burning behind his eyes. It wasn't anger, it was hunger. It was the cold determination of someone preparing to punish a man who had crossed a line without understanding where that line led. When the bell rang, Tyson didn't dance, didn't test the waters, didn't grant Green even a moment to gather himself. He pounced like a predator, hunting Green around the ring with relentless pressure, cutting off angles, closing distance, and firing punches that smashed into Green's skull with violent precision. Each shot was a reminder that arrogance carries a price. The street-tough persona Mitch Green carried into the ring disintegrated as Tyson dismantled him, leaving his face swollen, broken, and rearranged like a discarded mask. When it ended, commentators tried to describe the brutality, but even replays couldn't truly capture the punishment Tyson delivered. What no one expected, however, was that the madness wasn't over. 2 years later, long after the humiliation should have taught him a lesson, Green tracked Tyson down outside a clothing store in Harlem. Fueled by bitterness and ego, he wanted revenge in the one place he thought gave him an advantage, the streets. But instead of catching Tyson off guard, Green once again wandered into the lion's den. Tyson dropped him with the same ease he had displayed in the ring, leaving Green's face so unrecognizable that tabloids joked he looked like he had been run over by a truck. Tyson didn't need a ring, gloves, or cameras. His fists were ready anywhere. And Green, once again, paid dearly for touching the fire. Yet Mitch Green wasn't the only loudmouth who believed he could take on a man who built his life on surviving chaos. After Tyson's prison sentence, many assumed his time in isolation had dulled his sharpness, softened his brutality, or weakened his hunger. One of those believers was Peter McNeely, a brash Irish heavyweight who talked more than he fought. McNeely strutted into press conferences with a tongue that fired insults like confetti, promising to wrap Tyson in a cocoon of horror, predicting Tyson would crumble, saying absurd lines that were more comedic than threatening. He underestimated the version of Tyson that stepped out of those prison gates, bigger, angrier, and more focused than ever. When fight night arrived, McNeely didn't try to survive. He sprinted toward Tyson as if he thought heart alone could defy physics. Within seconds, Tyson caught him with a punch that sent him bouncing off the canvas like a rag doll. The crowd gasped, the commentators stuttered, and even McNeely looked confused by how fast his world turned upside down. Somehow, he stood back up, convincing himself he still had a fight to win. But Tyson saw the weakness instantly. Once he smelled blood, the end was inevitable. Tyson lunged in with explosive accuracy, slipping through McNeely's sloppy swings and breaking his balance with another devastating combination. The referee stepped in not to protect Tyson, but to save McNeely from himself. The bout lasted almost as long as McNeely's empty speeches. What people didn't understand at the time was that Tyson wasn't just proving he still had power. He was reasserting dominance. He was reminding the world, and any future trash talkers, that time behind bars hadn't dimmed the fire inside him. Prison had only forged it into something sharper. But while McNeely was a clown, the next challenger was no joke. Razer Ruddock, one of the hardest punchers of his era, believed he was destined to dethrone Tyson. Unlike others, Ruddock wasn't afraid. He had power, size, and momentum. He knocked out men who were thought to be unbreakable. Fighters like Evander Holyfield and Ruddock hesitated to face him because his punches carried the kind of force that shortened careers. Ruddock truly believed Tyson was just another obstacle on his way to becoming the division's alpha. When they finally met, the arena buzzed with the tension of two titans colliding. From the opening round, Ruddock shocked the crowd by landing sharp, vicious blows that backed Tyson. Tyson took the shots, nodded his head, and snarled for more. That was the turning point. Something inside Tyson switched, something primal. His stance tightened, his shoulders rolled differently, and his punches began carrying a level of violence that few humans could withstand. The fight transformed from a competition into a hurricane of brutality. Tyson's fists became sledgehammers. Each counterpunch snapped Ruddock's head back, each body shot drained another drop of confidence. When Tyson finally landed the vicious counter that sent Ruddock collapsing to the canvas, the arena erupted. The myth of Razer Ruddock, the invincible knockout machine, evaporated in an instant. By the 7th round, the referee stepped in, not because Tyson slowed down, but because Ruddock had nothing left. Tyson had taken everything from him: courage, strength, and the belief that he belonged at the top. But if Ruddock represented the danger of power, Larry Holmes represented the danger of pride. Holmes was a legendary champion, a technician, and a man who once inflicted a heartbreaking beating on Muhammad Ali. Tyson had grown up watching that fight, and the memory carved itself into his soul. When Holmes mocked Tyson, dismissing his abilities, claiming he wasn't worthy of historical respect, he awakened a fire no opponent wanted to face. When the bell sounded, Holmes tried to outsmart Tyson with footwork, jabs, and timing. But Tyson wasn't the young kid Holmes expected. He had matured into a ferocious, disciplined force. He cut the ring off, forced Holmes backward, and closed distance with terrifying efficiency. By the 4th round, Tyson had found his rhythm, and the punishment arrived in waves. A monstrous right hand knocked Holmes down. He rose, but his legs betrayed him. Tyson attacked again, dropping him a second time, then a third, until the fight ended with Holmes helpless against the ropes, swallowed by Tyson's storm. For Tyson, this wasn't just a win, it was justice for Ali. Yet pride continued to blind men much larger than Tyson. Tyrell Biggs, an Olympic gold medalist, mocked Tyson openly, convinced his height and reach made him untouchable. For a brief moment, his jab kept Tyson at distance, but arrogance clouded his judgment. He grew careless. Tyson saw the opening, slipped inside, and detonated brutal hooks that shattered Biggs' confidence. Each round broke him further until a final left hand sent him spiraling to the floor. Tyson didn't just defeat Biggs. He dismantled him, leaving no doubt about who the true champion was. Frank Bruno followed, armed with sculpted muscles and a dangerous belief that sheer size could overpower Tyson. Bruno landed solid shots early, rocking Tyson briefly, but moments like that didn't faze Iron Mike, they motivated him. Tyson adapted instantly, tearing into Bruno with combinations that destroyed muscle, bone, and ego. When Bruno's corner finally threw in the towel, Tyson stood centering, breathing like a predator who had finished the hunt. Then came Tony Tubbs and Tony Tucker, each arriving with their own brand of arrogance. Tubbs claimed he was one of the best heavyweights alive and would easily take Tyson apart. Tucker boasted that his height, reach, and undefeated record made him unbeatable. Both learned quickly that boxing records and bravado crumble in the presence of a relentless destroyer. Tubbs was folded by a crushing left hook. Tucker endured the full length of the fight but walked away defeated, outworked, and humbled by a man who refused to yield. Through all these battles, one truth stood out above the rest. Every man who swore to hurt Tyson, kill Tyson, embarrass Tyson, or expose Tyson met the same brutal fate. Their arrogance poisoned their judgment. Their pride sealed their doom. Tyson didn't just defeat them, he punished them for daring to challenge him without understanding what he truly was. He was the storm. He was the reckoning. He was the nightmare that turned threats into cautionary tales. If you enjoyed this deep dive into the men who swore they would destroy Mike Tyson, and instead paid the price, let me know what legendary breakdown you want next. Which icon, rivalry, or forgotten battle should we explore in the next episode? Drop your thoughts in the comments, hit that like button, and subscribe so you never miss another dramatic dive into the world of combat sports.